Front is a 3-month-long region-wide contemporary art exhibition that will happen in every major arts institution in Cleveland, and it will happen in public places and unexpected places throughout the community, with major contemporary art installations and exhibitions by the world's art rock stars all across Northeast Ohio.
Well, a couple of months ago, when we really started moving forward with the project, Michelle, Fred and I, we were sort of sitting around the table having a coffee and mentioning what is a name for this project. And we could have said, oh well, just call it the first Cleveland Triennial or the first Cleveland Biennial, but we all felt like that wasn't really bringing across the ambition that we have. We looked at names of other large-scale exhibitions like this, like Documenta or Manifesta or Prospect, and we felt like if we would have a name, a title, a term that would express what we are doing much more. And one of the things that I read very early on in my research was that the United States for a long time really stopped at the Cuyahoga River, and afterwards it was just wilderness. So this idea of the front was something that really came up. But we also thought about lakefront, we thought about just forefront, avant-garde of artists and pushing things towards another edge, So that's really where we came up with this idea of front, and hopefully it's something that will stick in people's mind, and it's not just as sort of generic as calling it the first biennial of this or the second triennial of that, which many of these large-scale exhibitions have done. I'm a senior curator at the Museum of Contemporary Art in Detroit, and I also have worked in Indianapolis, so I know the Midwest a little bit. This is the first time I'm really working here in Cleveland, but there's a certain sentiment perhaps that sort of connects. But at the same time, I'm much more known for the work that I do as an international curator, having organized biennials in Shanghai, in Istanbul, in Puerto Rico, and being involved in other large-scale exhibitions around the world. So it's sort of interesting that Michelle really has her roots in the Midwest, Chicago and Milwaukee, and we sort of come together as these two partners coming really from different backgrounds.
There's great culture that emerges from the center of the country, but often we think about the overbuilt centers on the coast. So whether that's New York or Los Angeles, spending 20 years in Chicago and now in Milwaukee, I have this relationship and a great fondness to what happens here in the Midwest. That's kind of different, the idea of bringing in culture and kind of peeling back and opening up the possibilities of the outside world, seeing what goes on.
I really realized that front can be a game changer. People always say, oh, Cleveland, that's so far away, that's not New York, it's not LA. But I honestly think that the real sort of avant-garde, the real creativity, it doesn't necessarily happen in these places like New York or LA anymore, and that we're sort of looking at very normative production and presentation of art, whereas here in a place like Cleveland and the front, we can do something quite radical.